just can't find is you, babe. It's you, babe. I know I may not be your speed, an ordinary Joe. Indeed, that's me, babe. That's me, indeed. I love the taste of cool, fresh air. It's safe to say I've been there. The clouds in the sky. Tell me you noticed them. You got no imagination. Is that something you might see? To do unto others, they say. You'd be nice to include me. I'm trying to tell you something. I'm not sure that you'll follow. The surface, it has no depth now. It must be that you're shallow, and you must know that I can see right through any games you play to stay away. Today's the day with me. I love the taste of cool, fresh air. It's safe to say, and I've been there. That's you, babe. That's you, babe. The clouds in the sky. Tell me you notice them. Tell me you notice them. Tell me you notice them.
How about now? There we go. I think that fixed it. All right. Welcome to Tux TV. I'm your host, Jimmy Tux. This is why they pay me the big bucks, is to have mistakes on live video streaming. BS usually leave me because I'm... Click the button. Yep. There we go. Okay. Now we're good. Okay. Well, since BS is here, I'm going to do a little thank you tribute to him. He was nice enough to invite me to have... He's nice enough to have me as a part of his programming. Let me hit this full screen. And this is a part of the end of his video, and I just can't tell you how much the end of this...
His knowledge of good and evil, he's craftier than any serpent. His understanding of the art of deception and how a cunning tale is crafted. And not to mention his sultry voice that Lucifer himself would be envious of.
That's so cute. And Howie Mandel and I go way, way back. Even when we both had hair, we were compared as brothers that somehow were separated at birth. So it's funny that this reference is used as Howie wearing a nice bow tie, having the BS horns. Evan is I'm not sure what you call this.
I honestly couldn't ask for a better actor who understood the motivations of the character he was playing. And if topics like the problem of deception and the problem of evil interest you, be sure to subscribe to Tux TV. His link is in the description. So yeah, I'd like to give Tux TV a big thank you from the bottom of my heart, and as always, Jimmy.
That's pretty cool. That is a really cool thank you. That is that's very flattering. In fact, one of the comments in showing this to friends and family is how much they appreciate seeing this little compliment and tribute to me. So this is a pretty cool thank you, and I greatly appreciate it. And it was my pleasure. Honestly, I'm the one who's more excited, I think, than anybody else is on this. So yeah, my cold dead heart thanks you as well. And that's a pretty good that's a pretty nice thank you. And then your
words?
finally little dig. I'm going to enjoy your art no matter what. And here's the thing. I know BS does this. And in the context of me answering this, if I remember correctly, there was artistic license being questioned whether, if I remember correctly, there was artistic license with me, and my response was, I've seen the work that you do. I know how this is pretty much going to go, and I pretty much have an idea of some of the things that you're able to do and probably will do. And so I said this, and clearly I am, there is a, in the apologetic and the believers and those who know that they're shoveling the shit as preachers and apologists, and those who believe it to be true don't realize that they are under the influence of something that's false and fake. And I think Kenneth Copeland is the top of the list. If I had to say, that person is either inflicted with Christianity or the inflictor of Christianity. And I would put Kenneth Copeland at the top of the list of knowing what he's doing is harmful to humanity, but his desire for the money and power that comes from being a Christian leader is more appealing than doing right by mankind. I won't say that about too many other people because it's really hard to tell. Like, you know, just a couple of rungs down on that ladder, I would say in the category of Cruffalo Dollar, he's pretty close to that, but I still don't know. Like, Cruffalo Dollar just might be a popular believer. And there's a difference between being a believer and being the deceiver, in my opinion. And Kenneth Copeland, I think, is number one for there's no mask for that that I can see. He is knowingly doing ill to humanity. There's lots of preachers out there, like the kind of the Hillsong crowd when they were rising up, and you see when they're falling, you see the cracks in that window of the cracks in that mirror of they knew they were inflicting the harm on humanity for money's sake. And the thing is it only takes like even the general level, the generals, the lieutenants, the people within the organizations of Hillsong, you still see like 99.9% of the people who are involved with it still are believers, still believe that they're doing the right thing for humanity. But there's just one or two at the top of that organization that I think are fully aware of what they're doing. And the reason they're franchising it is for the money, the power, the influence, the many things that go along with being a huckster and a grifter. Judge not, that ye be judged. So, thank you, BS. Thanks for comparing me to the biggest huckster of them all, but only in appearance, not in heart. It's kind of the biggest compliment you could give me. Okay, on to the show. I want to give a little bit of history lesson. And I want to give a hypothetical situation. This is my senator. She is Tammy Duckworth. She's been my senator since 2017. And I foresee her being in the Senate for quite a long time. It's one of those things where I could also see her, the next Democratic. She gets called into, service with the administration, type of thing. But she's been in office for quite a while. She's very similar in age to myself. So that's why I'm using her as a politician, as a comparable that I'm going to use a little bit later in the show. So to give an idea, I want to give a little bit of a history lesson for some events that Tammy Duckworth may have to reference someday in her career, either as a senator still, or maybe even as a defense capacity within an administration. And that is the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center. So we had a war in the Desert Shield and Desert Storm in the very late 80s and early 90s of my lifetime. And this resulted in a good, thorough butt kicking of the fourth largest military in the world. It was number 1 versus number 4, and it was a thorough butt kicking. We had a pretty good coalition of other militaries supporting us in this adventure. And clearly it was an embarrassment to a lot of Middle Eastern who believed that they had a god on their side. And so many of the pictures that came from a few years later, the attack on our own homeland, under one of the World Trade Center buildings, in which the mass of damage that was done to the foundation is immortalized in these pictures. And this sparked an investigation in which in 94 our intelligence agencies were able to do a investigation and topple a bunch of cells, and then did a search into a Jersey warehouse, and basically foiled a mass bombing of New York and Pennsylvania, if I remember correctly, were the targets. And there were several assets that were bombed in the mid and late 90s, specifically some U.S. embassies, and then the USS Cole, which was a ship parked in the Yemen area, and killed some of our soldiers, if I remember correctly. There were about 17. I killed Earl. Hi, Earl. Hi, Spooky. Hello. And B.S. Lewis is here. Lots of love for B.S. Lewis. Thank you all. Thank you all indeed. So, back to my story. So the World Trade Center in 93 was bombed. And then in 2001, the world changed. Planes were hijacked, and they were sent into the World Trade Centers, which and damaged quite a few of the buildings. The Flight 93 was also crash landed, which was believed to be headed for the White House or Capitol building in some capacity, and it was also believed that that the Pentagon was struck by these as well. So we had multiple buildings go down. And this sparked what was called the War on Terror. And yes, it is. Thank you, Spooky. Yes, it is. Yes. Look at you two. You two are so cute. So the World Trade Center falls. The Pentagon has damage, an excessive amount of damage on one of its sides, and it has changed the landscape forever now. Okay. Now in 93 there was a bombing, and that was not Al Qaeda, but in 2001. That was Al Qaeda that took down the World Trade Centers with planes. The connection between the two is the uncle of the organizer for the 1993 bombing was the organizer for the 2001 Al Qaeda attack on the World Trade Center, and this was only connected by the hatred of a Middle Eastern group just disliking the United States and its power. Hi, Alpha. And then we went to war in Afghanistan to go get Osama bin Laden, and many of his generals and lieutenants that we believed were terrorists and were no longer going to be considered allowed to just make plans to do harm to our inside our borders or outside of our borders. So I want to do a hypothetical that, let's say we have a 20-year war in Afghanistan, nearly 20-year war in Afghanistan. We kick their butts at great cost. We kick their butts up one side and down the other. And we have a disgraceful leave, as made the news. And there's no, there's really no change from the time we went in to the time we left in the ideology. It didn't really change. We changed nothing the entire time we were there. It all vacuumed in on itself like a vortex, and it's similar but different. And at any time, we could go back in and probably kick their butts up one side and down the other, and we wouldn't change the ideology a bit. And I want to make this comparable on a history lesson to what's known as the Mithritic Wars. So around 88 BC, Greece and Rome were having a spat, and Rome won. And the territory where Israel is, or mainly the areas that are of biblical story origin, was inherited due to the victor gains the spoils. And so you had about in 88 to 63, roughly 4 wars. You had 3 wars and a civil war all during that time, and it was won by the Romans, ultimately. And that's basically the landscape in which how Rome became the oppressor of what's commonly known as Christianity. So I'm going to share this tab, and I want to show I Am Bigger making a claim, and maybe even a couple of claims, that I want to address.
Which brings us to the last one, that some radical preacher named Jesus probably did exist, but everything else about him was religious embellishment at best, or completely and totally made up at worst. Some say it was made up by his disciples, the Romans, by Constantine, by a bunch of rich white guys in Rome who wanted a lot of power, or just by sitting around the campfire telling stories over and over and over again. Well, the earliest evidence of Christianity that's pretty solid shows it was already fairly well established by around 64 AD. And most of the New Testament is thought to have been written between the 50s and the 70s, so we know it couldn't have been made up after this.
Okay. So the main thing that I want to take away is it's established by Tacitus. Let me see if...
Established by around 64 AD. In most of the New Testament, it was already fairly well established by around 60 Christianity. That's pretty solid.
Okay. Tacitus, born in 56, dies in 120, is our first evidence that makes Christianity well established. And I want to ask every single person here, after I present that there is a war that's basically gone on for quite a while to establish within the area around where Christianity starts. There is the first Jewish-Roman War, which takes place between 66 and 73. There are consistent uprisings that are documented that are within that time, but from 66 to 73, the first Jewish-Roman War occurs. The second Jewish-Roman War occurs around 115. So, hypothetically, I want to suggest that Tammy Duckworth is sitting on the Senate floor around 15 years from now, maybe as many as 25. And she wants to give a summary, just like I have, about us being in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, us having been attacked in 93 from the World Trade Center bombings, and several other incidences, specifically some of the embassies around the world, and some of the attacks on USS Cole, and then the successful attacks on September 11th, 2001. And she gives a brief history lesson. And she says, and that's why we went into war against terror. These countries are harboring, and it was no longer going to be tolerated for you to harbor these people who want to harm us. You were given the benefit of the doubt until those towers came down. And now it's war. War on terror. And we had to go in there. We did this. Regrettably, there was death and destruction, and we kicked your butt every single time. And we're going to do it again. Now, in the Bush administration, when those planes hit the towers, the Bush administration was conspiratorially accused of having orchestrated those planes hitting the buildings. That rumor still persists today. It still persists today. If you go into a Google search right now and ask September 11th inside job, you will find a wealth, a cache full of conspiratorial information. Some of it pointing towards the Bushes actually orchestrating the whole attack with Osama bin Laden. Whether or not Osama bin Laden was in cahoots with the Bush administration, Afghanistan stood as the scapegoat. They were the ones who were punished for that crime of those towers going down, of the plane's unsuccessful attack on the Capitol, the successful attack on the Pentagon. We took it out on Afghanistan and the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. I'm sorry, not Taliban, but on Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden and his many, many soldiers in assistance. And here's my question to you. Do you think at any point when I refer to Osama bin Laden as the person we hunted down, and SEAL Team 6 goes in and takes care of business? At any point in there, do you think that I'm referring to Osama bin Laden as a god? Osama bin Laden as a messiah? Osama bin Laden as a starter of religion? No. I doubt any of you would, especially in a hypothetical scenario in which 12 to 25 years from now, we're discussing going back into Afghanistan, or we're discussing going back into Iraq to continue this war on terror. If you think that Osama bin Laden, at anything that I've said, is anything short of being a terrorist, and there might be some people in the world who think he's the most amazing guy for successfully taking down a couple of buildings and causing an awful lot of death and destruction as a result of hiding out for years and years and years. Which brings me back to Tacitus. Tacitus from 56 to 120. So what does Tacitus say in the second Roman called the Diaspora Revolt? Let me go back to this right here. The Sparta Revolt, also known as the Trajanic Revolt, and sometimes referred to as the Second Jewish-Roman War. Okay? So, this is where Tacitus is recording his information about a general speech on why we have to go back and fight these guys we already kicked their butts upside one down and the other. I mean, just every single time. These guys that go out there, our military might, as Romans, just far surpasses these folks who just think that they have a being on their side. They garner their weapons, they march right up, they blow their horns as if the walls of Jericho are going to come tumbling down, and they walk right into a slaughter nearly every single time. It happens over and over and over again. It's not even a contest. It's really just a few wins because of guerrilla warfare, but anytime it's military versus military, it's a slaughter. It's just it's beyond ridiculous how poorly the Jewish military is able to function comparative to the Roman military. So what does Tacitus say? I said, let me go to, sorry, I've lost that tab. So what does Tacitus say? So here's my question to you. Here is what it says. So I'm going to take this right here, and I'm going to enter it into Google Translate. This is from Latin. And I'm going to translate it to English. You can't see that. Let me try it this way. Try this instead. Okay. I'm going to hit, where's translate? Latin to English. Here we go. And okay. But the infamy did not subside by human help, nor by the bounties of the prince or the appeasement of the gods. But it was believed that the fire had been ordered, therefore, Nero, suppressing the rumor, subjected the guilty to the most exacting punishments, and inflicted on them the most exacting punishments, whom the common people called Christians because of their crimes. The author, his name Christ, had been executed by the procurator Pontius Pilate during the reign of Tiberius, and the destructive superstition which had been suppressed for the present was breaking out again, not only throughout Judea, the origin of its evil, but also throughout the city, where all atrocious or shameful things from all sides converge and are celebrated. Therefore, first those who confessed were reprimanded. Then by their testimony a vast multitude were convicted, not so much of a crime of the fire as the hatred of the human race. Okay. So is that well established that Jesus is a God in 64? If I tell everybody on the Senate floor, if I run for Senate and replace the senior senator from Illinois, Dick Durbin, I'm someday standing there, arms linked, with Tammy Duckworth, Senator Duckworth, and I tell my version of events of remembering September 11th. Remember the bombing that the nephew of the organizer of September 11th had done against our country, the crime that was committed. And I discussed the rumors that the leader of the country in 2001 was potentially guilty of coordinating the attack. Whether or not George W. Bush in 2001 orchestrated with Osama bin Laden, it does not carry any weight that I think this man and his followers have anything to do with a godlike stance. And I think this translation right here, Jesus isn't canonized widely as a god until 325 CE. I don't know if canonize is the right word, but whatever Jesus is prior to this, the ideology, the evil ideology that is being documented in history in the Second Jewish War in approximately 116, talking about 64, is Christianity therefore referring back to these war propagandists, either anti or pro propaganda for the Roman Empire? Either they're being used as the scapegoat and they exist in 115 to 117, or they are just they're just an excuse to go back in and beat the crap out of these guys again. And either, I don't know. I honestly don't know. What I don't understand is how it is well established Jesus is a god and Christianity is a good thing when the translation is most of the time that there is an evil ideology over in that country. And as much as we try to suppress it, it breaks out. To me, Tacitus is referring to an evil in Judea, just like Tammy Duckworth, Dick Durbin, myself would proclaim. It does not matter if we kick their butts. It doesn't matter how we try to stymie their evil ideology. It's going to resurface. So when he basically says, I am beggar, basically says that there's just this radical preacher.
Which brings us to the last one, that some radical preacher named Jesus probably did exist, but everything else about him was religious embellishment at best or completely and totally made up at worst.
My question is this. What's made up about Osama bin Laden 250 years from now about why he was successful? Assuming that this country loses its Christian majority and it's replaced with an Islamic majority. Would Osama bin Laden be revered as the having come Messiah? If any Abrahamic religion is capable of making a new version of the stories like Mormon Latter-day Saints, can they basically make a Messiah? And my answer is yes. Exactly the same way they can take the tidbits that are there and make it exactly the way it is right now, with some variation of a small following that accelerates after, say, 325 CE and has a revisionist history in its past. So I don't know what to make of this. I think it is dishonest to say that Christianity is established in 64 when it's something that's about the information given to us in 116 about 64. I don't know how to categorize this as truth or religious embellishment or totally made up. Like it's almost like I Am Beggar takes his weakness and turns it into his strength here. And especially the way he says, almost with a, I don't even know how you describe this, this vocal pattern that he has.
So the last one, that some radical preacher named Jesus probably.
Like, how do I take his mock voice of radical preacher when basically the comparable of this radical preacher is that he's some variation of a terrorist of a cult organization, an evil ideology, superstitious type of ideology that the Romans have to go back and squash again successfully, because the Jews summed that war up in 3 years. It was only 3 years. And then I want to put a side note on this one as well. In this comment right here, let me go back to near full screen.
So we know it couldn't have been made up after this. And it's unlikely that his disciples made it up because, well, they all died very brutal, violent deaths for it. And yes.
So, brutal deaths for it.
People die all the time for things they believe are true.
So he even mocks up. He almost like wants to put in his pocket that, hey, I know that there's people out here that are kind of crazy, blowing themselves up, but that wasn't us. That wasn't us early Christians. Certainly not back in 64. Certainly not back in 116. But it is. It is exactly what it is. The guerrilla tactics of potential Jewish Messiah following fans, whatever influence they were on, went in and potentially started trying to blow things up in Rome. Got blamed. Started a war, started a revolt. And all these massive blood-stained, strewn. Let me just remind everyone just one little thing here. Maybe I need to go back on this page. Yes, I do. Let me go back to this page right here. So, I want to show you one little simple little thing. In the Great Revolt, 1,556,460 civilians and militia killed. Perhaps hundreds of thousands of non-Jewish civilians, mostly trapped visitors, killed or enslaved of about 100,000. In this right here, there were, if you count up all these casualties and losses, $350,000 to $1.4 million. So, in the revolt, according to Tacitus, he has the estimates of about 1.1 to 1.2 million non-combatants. There's no such thing, when you look at this history lesson, as all these apostles being martyred. They're the enemy. There's no such thing as this right here. They're just plain war casualties. They're just plain political hits for trying to uprise, just being a part of an evil ideology. And if you want to call that some sort of persecution, and you want to tell me that they weren't going into Rome and setting things on fire, that they weren't causing any kind of weapon-on-weapon battles with the Roman military, the Roman leaders assigned to the region. No, these are people that had an agenda, that they had an invisible being who was on their side, has been kicking their enemies' butts all the time, and can be convinced that their invisible being is going to kick these guys' butts. And this guy died for us, and he's so powerful now that he's died, he's going to come back and he's going to get them. And that's my question. Where do I find the same line? Where do I find the same line that B.S. Lewis uses here with Kenneth Copeland? The number one person I bet B.S. and I would agree on that board of this person knows he's a deceiver and he loves deceiving. He loves to get those deceivers in his pocket. My voice and video are out of sync. Wonder if I should refresh. Let me try. Oh, it ended the stream. Oh, no. It's still going. Okay. See if it's a little better. I refreshed. Hopefully that fixes it. So I think that's where I'm at right there. At what point do I say? At what point do I say that Ian Baker is not telling you the truth, and he's intentionally not telling you the truth? Where is that line between withholding information and lying about the information available? And that's what I'm struggling with this next project coming out. How do I shorten that down to its ultimate conclusion? How do I give all the details to make a good informed decision in a minute 40 seconds or less? Because I don't know. I don't know. Okay. What else do we have on the agenda? I forget. Well, let's talk about let's talk about I couldn't get my thing to work. So I just got this little tool right here. And I got this little tool right here, and I've been playing with it a little bit. BS, do you have one of these? I'm curious if you use something like this for editing and stuff. And I got it to edit, and I got it to do some various things, and I've only practiced with it just a little bit. And I was thinking of playing with it, but I think we're pretty much done. And then that's about it. That's about it. I've got my intro complete. Well, maybe not complete. BS ain't got shit. Yeah. You tell him. Exactly. You ain't got shit. All right. Well, I bought it on Monday. I played around with it. It didn't do exactly what I wanted it to do, because one of the things that I'd have a problem with is the audio cutting out when you switch tabs. And I'm not able to just press the button and it opens up in the same tab. I haven't figured out how to do that. And it also, since this is a Mac, defaults to Safari, which doesn't work with Restream or StreamYard or anything else, because the audio has to go through Chrome. So I haven't figured out how to solve a couple of problems with it to make it useful on this stream. So I was going to play with it. I might have a test stream later and do that instead. And that's about it. I think that's about it. Not sure. I'm not sure. Does anybody want to come on? Earl? Robin? BS? Spooky. I'm drawing a blank on Cerebral Hex here. Is that a name change of somebody? It's you're in your jammies? I mean, are you selling it or passing? It's hard to tell, Earl. I can't afford you, Spooky. That's funny. Would you do it? Would you do it to get to play with StreamDeck with me? You're right, Spooky. I can't. And BS is in his jammies. He's going he's going full out. He's wearing nothing but a pillow with a rose clenched between his teeth. He's got Burt Reynolds. He's got Burt Reynolds vibes. So, funny story. I heard that there was a restaurant somewhere around Erie, Ohio, or Huron, Ohio, or something. One of the names that in the ladies' room they had put Burt Reynolds on the wall like a mural, and right where his wedding tackle would be, they had like a metal cover, and anybody who moved the metal cover to see what was under it, it would flicker the lights. I heard it in a bar from my grandpa, so I'm sure it's a true story. You're passing on seeing B.S. Lewis. B.S. Lewis wearing nothing but a mustache. You know what? Let's go. Let's go with Burt Reynolds. Yeah. Let's share this right. There you go. Let's go BS. I'm sure you could do it. Here, I'll put the link here. If someone wants to come on, maybe we'll play. We'll have some play time. All right. How can you top that right there? Oh, wow. Google Hangout participant, by the way. Oh. You're a Tunsellic. Is that a porn name? How did I get that big? Oh, that's funny. Tom Selleck, huh? All right. Well, let's see what we can do. Let's find a good one of them. Oh, yeah. Oh. There you go. Serb gets a... Yeah, he gets he's like a goalie. He's like a goalie at a pickup game. Doesn't have to be good. Just has to show up. Yeah. Participation show. Blue Bloods. Boils my blood. I have not seen Blue Bloods, I don't think. Yeah. Oh my. Oh my. Oh, I found a good one, guys. There we go. Yeah, I guess politics. There's a movie with Tom Selleck in it. Let's see if we can find it. Nope. What was the name of that movie? Let's try to find this. Well, unsuccessful. He's playing this baseball player that gets assigned to Japan. And that's all I remember. Don't remember the name of it. Baseball movie Japan. Mr. Baseball. Well, yeah, I'm unsuccessful. No, you. Oh, you know what? Let's do it. Let's play. Let's see my introduction here. We'll play that.
Satan, my number one frenemy. Long time no see. Looking sharp, my brother from a Mormon mother. Love the bow tie.
Well, I know how particular you are about the dress code for your guests at your parties, even if they're homeless vagabonds off the streets.
Well, it's like I always say. Fashion is my passion. Get it? The Passion of the Christ?
OMG!
Hilarious. So, what game did you have in? That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm not sure. I don't remember if I read it that way with the transition between laughing and a steer. Do you remember? BS. Hilarious. I need a refresher. Is my acting that good, or did like I do it two different ways and you just like clipped off each one? So what game did you have in mind? Yahtzee? Cards Against Humanity? Pick up sticks?
Pick up sticks on a Sabbath? I hope you're joking about that, Satan. Nah. I've been feeling especially big brain lately, so I thought we'd go with a classic. Chess.
Okay. So what are the stakes?
Oh, you know I don't gamble, Satan. That's a sin.
Well, can you really call it a gamble if you know the future and never lose any competition you're in?
You do have a good point there. I'm in. I'll tell you what, just between me and you, I was planning to write a sequel to the Tanakh. Maybe call it The Old Testament Strikes Back. I don't know, I'm just...
That's a great, that's a well-written line. The Old Testament strikes back. It'll never work. I'll tell you what, PS and I are going to write the final testament. So by the way, I want to find something. What was his name? I'm drawing a blank. I'll have to come back to it.
spitballing ideas here. If you win, I'll let you ghostwrite the entire thing. I still get all the glory, of course.
Oh, of course. That sounds good to me. But if I win, you have to go down to Earth and live as a human. Never have sex with anyone, not even yourself, and die a brutal death via crucifixion in a mock human sacrifice ritual designed to entice your chosen people to abandon the God of their fathers. It's, that's funny. I can hear my Chicago accent come out in their fathers.
What? That's preposterous! I can't even touch myself?
Nope. More than 2 shakes and you're playing with yourself. But on the bright side, by my estimates, you'll probably only last 30-something years down there, 50 if you're lucky. In the scope of eternity, that's just the blink of an eye. Oh my goodness, that's a great clip.
Actually, it's going to be super easy. Barely an inconvenience.
It seems a little steep. But you know what? You're on. I don't even need to check the future outcome of the game to know that you have no chance against an ontologically maximally great being such as myself.
Well, if you're so confident, what about an extra stipulation? In the nearly impossible event of a stalemate, how about both bets are enforced? So I want to read to you from an email I sent somebody one time. And how I was aware of this strategy before I was an atheist. I wrote this email, and this is 2 full years before I'm confessing to be an atheist. I'm going to play this and find the spot.
I don't know.
Unless you're okay with me telling all the other angels that you are the Lord of the Chickens.
Okay, it's a deal. Let's get on with it. Alright, Satan. You're black. Obviously. Which means I go first. Pawn d2 to d7. Check.
What? You can't do that. It's impossible to get a check on the first move.
Well, with me.
All right. Here we go. Let's see. So this is an excerpt from an email I sent. So Satan, the sweet seduction, I say. Here's my line of thought. The Bible tells the story of creation, and every day ends with it's good. And on the 6th day also ends as good, followed by the week as a whole as, hey, very good indeed. So God tells 2, maybe even 3 lies from Genesis 1 to 3. Lie 1. If everything is good and very good, where does this bad serpent gain access to Eden with very bad Satan controller. You touch on the anecdotal lie in your Adam and Eve thread, so surely you will die-ish. God creates Adam and Eve, and Eden is home. Don't eat from that tree. Let's have a parade. Creation that won't do so, Adam goes under. God makes Eve. No relationship is between God and Eve. God never reiterates the rules to her. A cause and effect door for Satan to easily confuse and deceive her. At least in the Bible ever, Eve is never told by God, although after the fact, she is aware it's wrong. So, I want to show this very last line. The real money making is keep the believers as donors. I'd make a load if only I didn't have a conscience. I have an idea. Follow the money. The Bible makes somebody money and it's not God. It's you know who with the double-sided coin. So BS, when you say I'm in your head, before I was an atheist, I already had that figured out. The heads I win, tails you lose scenario was already figured out. You gotta love that.
All things are possible.
Pawns can only move a maximum of 2 spaces on the first move. That's against the rules.
And rules need a rule maker, which conveniently means that rules were meant to be broken by me, whenever I want, for morally sufficient reasons in accordance to my infinitely just nature.
Move the goalpost now.
Just think of it this
Moving
way.
the goalpost now.
You just saw a real life, honest to God miracle. Hashtag blessed. Now get on with it. It's your turn. It's not like we have all the time in the world here.
And there goes your last bishop. Only pawns and your king left, Jesus. It's only a matter of time until your no-fat blood magic holiday is a reality.
Not today, Satan, you swarthy ne'er-do-well. Behold, the King of Kings.
Kings? If you're going to bend the rules, why not make queens?
Because my ways are higher than your ways, Satan. I'm over here playing 4D chess while you're over there thinking about kindergarten storytime hour.
All right, Jesus. I've taken most of your decoy kings. Your checkmate is inevitable. Do you have any more magic tricks up your sleeve? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were pretty hardy. Yeah, they were pretty hardy red districts. All right. Well, folks, I think I made my points here. No, nobody changes their intelligence because they change their political views. Just remember that. What are we going to do for a moment of Zen? I showed this to B.S. Lewis the other night. And so I think I'm going to use that for my moment of Zen tonight.
Okay, I'll get right here with you. I'm all right. Don't worry, I ain't going nowhere. I'm going to do this interview with it. That's it. Thank you. Here you go.
Well, they got people working for you and everything.
That's right. All of it. It never fails, Tom. I get, you can ask for anything you want in this show, and we'll have someone go out and get it for you.
Christ.
We tried to get him, but there wasn't enough money. We didn't know who to call for the booking. I got the wrong agent. How long? Is there something down here I don't know about? Right. Let's move ahead. Okay. They tell me that you have sort of a cult following. Is that what you don't? Do you agree with that expression, a cult following?
I have a growing level of popularity throughout the intercontinental United States, Japan, and I travel extensively in Europe as well. I don't do half bad.
They tell me you have a new market now in Ireland. Is that true? Yeah.
I've performed in Dublin and done very well there as well.
You look like a leprechaun. You should do well there.
Well, I'm also big in Philadelphia.
Excuse me.
I feel like I'm at my grandmother's.
All right. Bowtie bless all. Bowtie bless you all. And thanks again to BS. And food for thought on any time an apologist is basically telling you about Christianity is well established in 64. Because I think that's a bunch of crap. Call them out on it. Make them show you the goods. Make them show you. Make them show you. Bowtie bless. And we'll see you in the next one. Hopefully the premiere for the next show is pretty soon to follow. Great day.